I'll tell you what, you have made such a good impression on people here, whether it be your coaches, the guys, even just talking to Reggie and his group, like the way you handle yourself, you're all about the right stuff, man, and you can play. We've got depth at safety like no team I've ever been a part of. And so we want to bring you back on the practice squad. Obviously, you've had good tape in college and different things like that, and if you get claimed, I'd be really happy for you.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that. I understand how it kind of goes and everything.
Yeah.
I know it.
But I think, you'll only get better. I think this system suits a lot of your skill sets with how smart you are. I mean, this stuff is, I can see you're getting a feel for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely get more and more comfortable,
Absolutely.
Especially in that defense, and especially with older guys and everything. So,
yeah,
no, I'm excited to keep learning everything.
Like I said, if you get claimed, that's a positive thing, and that means you're on a 53 somewhere. But if you don't get claimed, we want you back here on the practice squad bad and to continue to move forward with you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that very much, yeah.
Appreciate you too, man. Thanks, Juju.
Thank
All
you,
right, buddy.
guys. Appreciate
we'll see
you,
you on
Coach.
Sunday.
Like the shorts.
Yeah. These are some of my friends back home, man. Actually in Fresno. They actually make this their brand, so.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah. Get the message across a little bit, and they're pretty cool, I think. So, yeah.
All right, Juju.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, the two pigs lives to see another day.
I'll tell you what.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our final episode of Hard Knocks, the After Show, presented by Porsche. I'm J.B. Long, joined by Sarina Morales. Hope you all enjoyed the finale of Hard Knocks Los Angeles. Sarina, this episode is always the toughest to watch, as many of the players we've gotten to know over the last 5 weeks are told the team is going in a different direction. Fortunately, this year especially, many of them are now part of the 16-man practice squad, and the other silver lining, of course, is that as Hard Knocks ends, the season begins. We will have Rams GM Les Sneed join us a little later to discuss some of the decisions he made and also the opener against the Cowboys at SoFi Stadium.
For sure. And it's kind of sad for it to end, but to your point, JB, the season is now starting. But first, we're going to start welcoming a couple of our guests to help us recap the finale of Hard Knocks. He's a reporter for the NFL Network. He spent plenty of time covering the Rams, Omar Ruiz, and his NFL Network brother and host of the Red Zone channel on DirecTV, Andrew Siciliano, with the hands. We got Omar with the Hawaii shirt. We're ready to go.
Yeah, that means it's the end of summer. Hard Knocks season finale. That means football's here. It's week 1. Last opportunity to wear those Hawaiian shirts. You know how that is, Andrew.
I think it's awesome, Omar. I'm just wearing my old school Rams. I can still wear the old logo, and Baby Yoda back here has got the new logo, if you guys can see that.
Ooh,
so,
I like it.
Baby Yoda got the upgrade, but you
got the upgrade.
Did not.
I'm also in the middle of my fantasy draft, and I think I just got screwed. So let's keep going.
Any Rams yet, Andrew?
I don't have any Rams.
Will
I wanted to take Cooper Kupp. Someone took Cooper right before I got him.
Poor excuse.
I know.
All right, guys, one of my first takeaways from the night, really from the whole season, is just how much Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, two superstars, are willing to be coaches for their teammates and especially the younger members, bubble members of this preseason roster. You guys have more of an NFL league-wide perspective. How unique, how rare is that to have players in their position and be willing to share against people who are not always going to be lining up next to them for the rest of the season?
One thing I always hear about is the best players are their best people in those buildings. And we hear it so commonly now that it's a cliche. But to hear it on Hard Knocks with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and even there was an earlier episode with Andrew Whitworth, who is doing the same thing, showing younger players some, technical things on the field. To see that on display after hearing about it so much, that these players are so instrumental to what Sean McVay has laid out, big part of what they do as an organization, to kind of see it through this, not only this past episode, but the entire season, it was really cool to see.
I think it speaks to culture, guys. I loved it. The idea that Jalen Ramsey, and he's lined up, obviously, JB, Sarina, you're out there every day, lined up a lot now against Van Jefferson after that first scrimmage at SoFi. it's iron sharpens iron. I know that's kind of a cliche, but listen, he makes Van Jefferson better. That helps them week 1 on Sunday night against the Cowboys. And that's why, by the way, you pay those guys, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, because not only do they perform, but they set the standard in the locker room as well. While we're on the topic, I thought it was great, that scene at the end with Anthony Lynn with the rookie running back, just him as the former NFL running back as well, giving those teaching points. And that's the kind of guy I'd want to learn from as well. So that's great, I think, on both sides.
I think you're on deck, Siciliano, as well.
Oh, yeah. You guys can hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do my fantasy draft with me?
Who's
Take
up
Samuel
now?
Sloman early.
Can we talk about that? Who saw that coming?
Well, I like how he was assertive enough to insist that, hey, please call me Samuel. I don't think it drew as much headlines as Mitchell Trubisky did several years ago, but good for Samuel expressing himself like that.
Yeah, it's great. Of the 3 kickers there, that one certainly surprised me. But hey, keep your draft picks. They were all kind of even. Let's go.
Wait, were you cheering for Canadian? I can't speak today. Oh, Canada today?
Liram, yes. I kind of thought that Liram was the guy, watching with JB and MJD in the stands, especially the first scrimmage, and even a little bit in the second, although I know they had holding issues with the second with Hecker not there and Cooper going home early. I thought he looked like the best guy.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, the way kickers are shuffling around the NFL the last few days, whatever.
No one really talked about. I mean, we had 3 kickers, but there's other kickers available too. Like I was always kind of like, well, maybe we end up getting a guy that's not either of these guys. So I know JB. I'm not sure if you were on that call, but both Johnny Hecker and some of the special teams guys were like, we set them up. Maybe like Jake McQuaid was like, well, it was really our fault that the kick wasn't executed the right way. And so all those things that we don't necessarily see, hey, Samuel Sloman, he got the job, right? Maybe there was something that happened in one of those scrimmages that we were like, oh, we didn't know that was their fault, right?
That's one of those examples where you hear players a lot sort of scoff at their PFF ratings because the guys who are evaluating that don't necessarily know exactly what the assignment was for that player, even though, in common terms or just generally speaking, he may have rated out a certain way, but actually in what he was assigned to do is a lot different than maybe what it looked like he should have done.
And the look on JB's face right now is saying, we just spent 3 minutes on kickers.
There was a kicking competition this offseason. I was all for it.
And Andrew, that look was, how do I segue from Samuel Sloman to Ray Agnew? And here's what I would go with is I could not have either of their jobs, right? Because NFL place kicker not cut out for it. And Ray is like such a great guy, such a gentleman. And he had the very difficult task of making some sad phone calls, right? Some heartbreaking phone calls. Of the guys who have been on this after show with us, namely Clay Johnston, Double D, Dante Dion, Juju Hughes, he of Toothpick Lore, which one of those kind of tugged at your heartstrings the most, or which one of those storylines did you really connect with?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I like Juju. Clay, though, kind of had, and this was, the downside of COVID. Well, there's many downsides of COVID, but one of the things, I really didn't get a chance to meet many guys this year at all. It was all through the Zooms. I know you guys are a little bit closer. Clay Johnston kind of had a little bit of folksy, aw, shucks. And just the way, even when he's in there with Sean and Les after he gets cut about, man, this was just an honor. That one was tough, but I get it. Like, you're going to go hang with dad. Dante Dion, though, has an energy to him, and you saw how Ray got emotional there. I look at it from the perspective of what's it like to be on the big roster and then realize that you come back to work and you kind of got to sit at the kids' table. Hey, employment, it's good, right? It's good to have a job. I wonder what that's like for a guy.
The bank account notices.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, no question, it was Dante Dion. Sarina, I don't know if you remember this. After a practice last year, Dante walked by with another player, I believe, from the practice squad. I wasn't familiar with either one, but Dante had such a charismatic presence about him that he was immediately noticeable. And I think I asked him, who is that guy? And he started telling me a little bit about him. And to see him shine in Hard Knocks like that, it was really cool. And so obviously because of that little personal connection and then seeing him on Hard Knocks, of course, he's not a rookie. He wasn't drafted this year, wasn't just signed this year. You're kind of hoping that, he gets to the active roster and gets his shot on the field. So for me, that was, the most disappointing. But to your point, JB, about Ray Agnew, I think that was the most striking thing about the COVID impact in this season finale of Hard Knocks this year, was having to call them and the players knowing they were driving in to lose their job. Usually, the Turk goes and gets them. They walk down the hallway and they have the talk with either the general manager or the head coach. But for them to get that call from Ray, and then for Clay, it was an hour and a half. Maybe it was 20-minute drive for some of the other guys. Who knows how far away they were living. But that must have been so agonizing on their way back to the facility to have that conversation with Les and Sean.
DD definitely splashes as far as like a locker room guy. All of last year, sitting in the cafeteria. To me, I think he stood out the most, not because they featured him so much on Hard Knocks, but he has the respect of a guy like Jalen Ramsey. And when you have the respect of a guy like that, you're doing something right. Outside of things of, just laughing and joking around, when you turn it on, you turn it on. I think John Johnson is another guy, like he can joke all he wants, but when it's time to turn it on, he turns it on. So when you have a respect and you're sort of that glue guy, which Sean said on Hard Knocks, like those guys mean so much. And so, you have a balance of a roster with an Aaron Donald and a Jalen and a Whitworth, but you also have a guy like Dante Dion, kind of goes under the radar until we can see his personality. So yeah, Omar, the fact that you remember from last year being like, who's that guy? And I was like, oh yeah, Dante Dion, Boise State, da-da-da. But I mean, you can't help but notice him for sure.
I just wonder if we're at the point where one of these meetings with the head coach and general manager is going to go something like this. Sorry, JB, we're going to have to let you go. We hope to bring you back in the practice squad. And he's like, no worries, coach. I've seen this coming for a month now. I've been on every episode of Hard Knocks.
Right. It's the kiss of death.
Yeah,
or when somebody gets cut and just turns to the camera, knowing it's up there, and just starts making his pitch already for one of the other 31 teams. Hey, look, it's me.
You are on deck.
Oh my.
So here's the issue, Sarina. So I'm doing
is
my
that an automated voice, Andrew, or is that one of your buddies?
If I were to turn this off, then I wouldn't hear you guys. So, and I want you to know that that a bunch of people in my fantasy league are actually watching this because they've already texted. So they're impressed at the multitasking. And one of those people is your boss, Jory.
Jory is on also? Well,
Jory, so for those who don't know at home,
Did he pick up
the head of
Cooper
Rams
Kupp?
Broadcasting, who's organizing this entire thing and producing it as well. I'm calling him out and throwing him out of the bus. He is also on this fantasy draft. And actually, he just drafted 2 picks ago. Jory picked Robbie Gold, shockingly.
Shocking.
You have a retort, Jory? I know you can turn the camera on.
No, this is way too inside.
No, he wants to hide. He has no desire to. He's producer. Well, just keep us posted if you get a Rams player. That's,
We're good.
At least we can keep it in context, right, JP? Jeez.
Hey guys, our next guest is going to be Les Sneed. Before we turn our attention his way, I wonder, what do you make of the Rams having the 3rd youngest roster in the league going into this season? Big deal or no deal?
It's kind of consistent. Obviously, Whitworth always skews the numbers, but it's kind of the way this thing has been going. You would think there's the quarterback ages, and as Cooper Kupp and some of the other core veterans age, Aaron Donald included, those numbers would go up, but they haven't. It's the way you win in this league. You eventually have to pay the quarterback. You guys know this, and then you have to keep the roster younger. But I think that their core guys, the guys that get paid the most, Whitworth aside, are still in their 20s, I think speaks pretty well for the team, for how the team is constructed.
Yeah, not a big deal. It's just a matter of developing your draft picks, developing those undrafted free agents, and it's the NFL cycle of life. And we're seeing that here with the 2020 Rams. You still obviously have that foundation of leadership there, but you have to have the young guys eventually develop and perform. And so that's, what I know Rams fans are hoping this season.
Well, good for you, Andrew. You can go and draft whoever you want.
I'm already done. I already did it.
Oh, well, good. Well, we're going to replace you with a real GM anyway. But I appreciate you, Andrew.
Hey, it's great being on, and tell Les that the entire show, the best thing of the show, hands down, were the headshots of his wonderful wife and my former co-host over his shoulder in the office. I'm just here for the headshots.
Thank you for joining us. Good luck with Red Zone. Drink your water.
See you Sunday. Have a great call, guys.
Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Omar, you can hang on. It's just Andrew because he's busy drafting with Jory here. I think are we hanging on to Omar, I believe? We do want to bring in Les Sneed though right now, who's had to make some very difficult decisions that were made public on Hard Knocks. So to get to the Rams final 53, we welcome in Rams General Manager Les Sneed, who hopefully heard everything we were just talking about. And he's always got those awesome glasses on as well. Hey!
Hey, Les, what's going on, man? You inspired me.
I love it. Kara told me that she couldn't order anymore. So I need to find out what your brand is now.
BCBG.
I love it. That sounds really fancy.
Did you make those glasses so cool that they just sold out?
You know what? That's I like that. Hadn't thought of that, never crossed my mind, but there's a possibility.
Me and JB missed the memo.
But I heard nothing y'all were talking about.
Oh, well, okay. Siciliano said hello. And he's in the middle of his draft. But you, my friend, you get to actually draft a real team, the Los Angeles Rams. So we'll get to it. What are your overall thoughts now that we've got a final roster in place and we're heading into the first game of the season, Sunday Night Football at SoFi?
I always say the overall thoughts. It's always we're really close to keeping score, and you know what? We'll keep score. They'll put those scores usually somehow in the standings, and then people like Omar can analyze those scores and how those standings are shaping up as the season goes along. But that's why ultimately you get into this is that competitiveness and what's neat is every year is different, and it's pretty cool that we now have 53 plus 16 young men that are ready to go and compete and take on the Cowboys.
Les, on that point about the expanded practice squad, this feels like a season where more than ever they're going to play a contributing role on game day eventually. And I think of an example like Darius Williams. Maybe you've got one kind of near and dear to your heart, a favorite example of a player who's been cut, who spent time on a practice squad and is now in a position to take on Amari Cooper and the Cowboys in less than a week. Just how important day to day in terms of giving a scouting look, but also in terms of providing depth for your roster, is that group of 16 going to be?
Oh, that group of 16's really, really important. I think J.B. Jordan, who's in our scouting department, if you watch Hard Knocks tonight, he was the one giving giving Whitworth 100 more years. So not sure Mrs. Whitworth's going to appreciate him playing 100 more. But he has this neat photo that he's always used back remember the Super Bowl when the Seattle was down maybe on the 1 yard line. And a guy named Malcolm Butler made the pick. But I forget how many there are. But let's go to pretty much basically the last or one of the last plays of the season, one of the more important, one of the more dramatic plays of the season, if not history of football. But take Malcolm Butler, take many other players on the field. At that moment, they weren't household names. They weren't starters. They were players that were basically pushed into playing at some point during the season because of natural attrition. And it ends up, that came down to one play, and a guy like Malcolm Butler, not sure he was ever on the practice squad, but maybe undrafted and makes that play. So that's the goal, to field I like to say this when we're cutting the team. This year it's interesting, right? Who's our best 48, right? Who is Coach McVay and his staff going to give jerseys and helmets to, right? And then after that, let's try to figure out the best 49 to 69, and 49 to 53 make more money, unfortunately, but you're always trying to navigate right the waiver wire and who to keep and not to cut based on who might get claimed, things like that. And here we are. And yes, you're right. We now have Rule 54 and 55. So take COVID out in the disaster scenarios of, you have 16 players for some reason catch COVID on a Saturday night or a Friday and test positive, and you can activate 16 on game day. That'd be a disaster. That would obviously, Omar, your group, y'all have a blast chatting about that. I don't know if it's a blast, probably a bad word to use, but you'd definitely be discussing it. But the interesting one will be over the course of the year, and New England may be about to do it. It does seem like, and I haven't really delved into their roster yet, but it seems like both of their kickers are on practice squad. So it does seem like sometime this week they will make one of those kickers their 54th or 55th player and then activate him on game day. So we'll probably do the same throughout the season as well.
One of the things I appreciated less about you saying the other day is sort of the recognition to your staff and your department for all the work that you guys do year round to sort of get to the end of training camp, that 53. And of course, the work continues throughout the season, and the goal ultimately is to win the Super Bowl. But, it was a sort of special day and recognition for that aspect of your staff and all the work you guys do throughout the year.
Well, it was interesting as I was thinking about that press conference, and then you were looking at the roster, and really just all right, let's prepare just in case there's a question. Remember who's on the 69, but you start thinking about, and I don't think I could do it. I left my whatever you want to call it, journal day planner at the office, so devastated me tonight, because usually I'm lost without that. But right, as I mentioned, there's I call it other league scouting, right? There's the F and John Wofford, and there's the CFL and Liram, one of the kickers challenging for us, and same with Mr. McGinnis of the AAF. And then we brought in it when the CFL, let's call it, canceled their season, was able to bring in a CFL player who's now on our practice squad. So those are the Darius Williams acquisition, which is interesting. You probably know his transaction list better than I know he was made Baltimore's team, played a few games, released by Baltimore. We claimed him. We may eventually put him on practice squad and brought him back up. But that was an interesting case study in the process, Omar, that there's a lot of people involved, and it's a over a year long process. But Darius fell out of the draft, and we tried to battle for him to become a Ram as a college free agent. He snubbed us, chose the Ravens. We didn't hold a grudge, and when he got claimed, we claimed him and nabbed him. And what's interesting, Brad Holmes, our director of college scouting, was a huge fan of Darius, and was definitely if you heard the saying, pound the table to draft him, and he was pounding the table to draft him. But Brad was going to have his first baby. I don't think it was the next day, but they were going to do a natural birth, no inducing or anything like that. So was expecting. So we got him on the first flight out. So he missed college free agency that year, and he always beats himself up because he says if he would have stayed, that we would have gotten Darius Williams, but he might have missed the birth of his first child and probably wouldn't be married right now. But
hey, so those are the great behind-the-scenes stories we love to hear.
There you go.
Hey, Les, I don't want Hard Knocks.
UAB Blazer, you know what he is? Darius Williams, one of probably the few UAB Blazers. So Gerald Everett, who's on our team, was a teammate with Darius. UAB cancels football. Gerald goes to South Alabama, got the huge win the other night against Southern Miss. It's only football on CBS Sports Network. But Darius decided he wouldn't transfer. He was going to stick it out and wait and see if they brought it back. So he was, I guess you'd call it just a civilian student for a year, however long it took them to get football back at UAB. And he stayed the course and finished his career there.
Hey, Les, something's been bothering me these last couple episodes of Hard Knocks, and that is the fact that it looks like Sean McVay stole his stationary bike from the workout room at a Motel 6.
Yeah, that's a bad bike. I could never.
Could you hook him up? Like, whose decision is that?
But you know what's occurred now though. Kevin Demoff during quarantine stole my bike to take to his garage to do the whole quarantine workout and hasn't replaced it yet. So I've been lost without the stationary bike, watching film in the office.
Did he steal it or did you lend it to him?
Well, I think he's my boss, so I can't really accuse him. He didn't ask for permission to take it. He did text me a picture of it in the back of his, if you want to call it car.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a SUV, right? Can't put a bike in the car, but he texted me and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna take your bike home to."
Amazing. How did he do? Like, how does Kevin's so unassuming. So he's like, you know what? Today I'm taking Les's bike. Like that just seems.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's
how it happened.
That's something. An asterisk.
Oh, man.
That's like Cobra Kai. I don't know if you guys watched that show, but Daniel LaRusso asked one of his employees, "Hey, do you want to work out together, get some karate going?" And the employee says, "Are you asking as my boss or as my friend?" And he says, as my friend. He said, "Oh, no way. And then let me ask you as my boss." He said, "Oh, okay, maybe I'm going to be a little sick that day," but kind of reminds me of that little relationship.
Well, let's call it coincidentally, Kara got me to watch my first episode of, what do you call it, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
So I was Googling Karate Kid last night to catch up on the characters and all of that, but
Les, Omar dared me to ask if you wanted to break any news here tonight before we say goodnight. So before we sign off, the floor is yours.
I'm not in the news breaking business. That's so.
You've got
They don't
three
pay me
people
well
that
enough.
are asking you questions.
Yeah, anything you want to share, Les?
It's game plan night. We're on to the Cowboys.
All right, we'll sleep on it then.
No news is, I have no news right now.
Les,
I'll go. Maybe when I leave the call, I'll go check the phone and see if there is any news.
you got a missed call right now? Is there any?
You know what? I got my phone turned over, so I'm not.
That's
so
good
focused.
etiquette, I
I'm
suppose.
focused. I'm looking you in the eye. I'm answering questions. All those things. Those things grandmother and mom taught you.
Les, what was your favorite moment of Hard Knocks, like overall?
Ooh. You know what? Interestingly, I think if I told Tim, who he was our director, he's the leader of Hard Knocks at our building. I got his title bad, but Hard Knocks does a great job with the titles, right? But I did say my favorite scene. Unfortunately, it was with the Chargers, it has all to do with their great camera work, but it was when they were playing. It's not bocce ball. What do you call it? The beanbag game?
Oh, cornhole.
Cornhole, and guy and it hit and slid in, and then they had the camera underneath the cornhole, and you saw it in slow-mo from underneath the cornhole all over the hole and then fall in. So probably a obscure, kind of unique favorite Hard Knocks scene.
So glad that you broke news and gave your favorite moment was of the other team, Les. That's awesome.
I can say we do get to preview Hard Knocks. It's fascinating. So this is a good behind the scenes. As we got into, let's call it camp mode, Sean wakes up he's probably already gone to bed and gotten back up. So we would preview Hard Knocks like at 6 a.m. Every Monday morning, just to go through the scenes and things like that. So that's your inside news. And I have, after I told that story, I don't know why I was even telling it.
Would you have to sign off on those, Les?
You kind of know what happens is what's coming, things like that. But I mean, I had a good story, and that may be a good story, but I forgot.
That's a good story. Well, we'll take it, Les.
What was the question, Sarina?
That was it. You gave it to us before I could ask it. So
There was something that was going to be really good, but
you were great. We appreciate your time, Les. You go call some peeps and whatnot. Go, if you have to, if you're free. Omar, we also appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Omar, do you got any breaking news, Omar?
No, but I was at the ribbon cutting ceremony today at SoFi Stadium. And it's not news, but I mean, every time I've been there recently, it's just more spectacular than the previous time. And to see Stan Kroenke so emotional there today and the appreciation he had for all the different, avenues of work that he had to kind of push through to make it happen. It was something else. And so I'll say that.
That's cool. I know, partnered with Kevin, I call it, since 2012, and kind of again, way above my pay grade. Obviously not an expert in doing what they do in terms of getting that feat accomplished, but pretty cool moment when you first went there. And I remember telling Kevin that do you realize, what you and Stan and many more got accomplished, and this was, I mean, you better embrace this moment for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was born here in LA, and all the different, tributes to Southern California and greater Los Angeles and stuff is just, for a native Angelino, really cool to see.
Second favorite scene though, Hard Knocks, is I've tried to explain to everyone, is like anytime you see SoFi from inside, it feels like you're in a video game. Like, do y'all get that sense? There's some.
I can see that, yeah.
So tonight, when they were doing the scrimmage scenes, not Chargers, Rams, Sarina, and Sean was on the sidelines. I mean, it truly looked like he was coaching a Madden game. I mean, go back and hit rewind or stream it or whatever you do to see that. I mean, I try to explain, it's like you're in virtual reality when you go.
Yeah.
It does feel that way.
Omar and Les, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing you back there at SoFi for the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. And that's a wrap for Hard Knocks, the after show presented by Porsche. Shout out to Double D, Dante Dion, for staying on brand and pulling up for the hard news in a Porsche himself. Thanks to all our guests that joined us tonight, Andrew Siciliano, Omar, and Les. And to you, my partner, Sarina Morales, for a great 5-episode run.
For sure. JB, it's been fun. Again, if you missed any part of Hard Knocks finale or you want to rewatch it again, make sure you catch the West Coast airing tonight at 10 p.m. on HBO or HBO Max. Make sure you tune in to all of the Rams platforms on Sunday. First game of the season, Sunday Night Football. Be ready. We'll have a live pregame show from SoFi Stadium. For now, good night, and thanks for watching us all season long. Have a great night.